The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
Hannah, we have a guest coming on here in just a little bit who's an author. She does fantasy romance. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Oh, I do.
You know what that is?
Oh, I know what that is, yeah.
All right. Well, because I don't. I mean, is this like they're riding on a dragon in a sexy outfit?
No.
Okay.
I've researched her. These are going to be good books.
Okay. All right. She grew up in Evergreen Park, went to Evergreen Park High School, lives in Oak Lawn, and has already been published a couple of books, I think, and has a new one coming out. So we're going to get with her in just a little bit here. You, on the other hand, in the romance fantasy genre, people are very curious. So before we get to our romantic author, you had multiple dates with that one dude.
I did.
And now I'm hearing you're not going out with him anymore.
Not going out with him anymore, no.
You dropped him. What did he do?
It's just, I just wasn't connecting with him. He was too quiet.
You were gushing over him.
I know, but you get to know somebody. You're like, are you ever going to open up? Are you ever going to cut loose? Are you ever going to do anything funny? Are you ever going to laugh?
So let me get this straight. So what you want is you want a person that's like, not crazy on the first few dates, but then gets crazy later on?
Yeah, have some personality. Don't be a workaholic.
Now, what if he would have shown up and he would have been Mr. Personality on the first date? Would it have been too much for you?
No, not at all.
No,
not at all.
Well, then shouldn't you have been able to figure that out when you started?
Well, you think he's shy at first, So
you're waiting for, you're thinking there's layers.
I'm thinking there's layers.
You're like, this is an onion, but it wasn't an onion.
It wasn't an onion, no. It was just
an apple.
Just an apple. Yeah, I was going to say apple. It was just an apple. What you see is what you get.
And this episode of the EP Podcast brought to you proudly by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. They invest in the EP community. After all, they love the area as much as you do. Plus, with their Total Access checking account, you get free ATMs nationwide and a $300 bonus with qualifying activities. They're giving great rates on CDs in their Statement Savings Special. Plus, they'll set up accounts for the entire family. All of my kids have one, and I'm able to keep track of what they're doing. You can learn more at bankevergreenpark.com, but stop in and see them in an iconic building at 95th and Pulaski. Say hi. Ask any question you want. They'll take care of you.
I've started seeing someone that I was seeing like back around Christmas. We kind of like fell off the radar, so.
Yeah, I know, because I was already told I'm supposed to meet this person.
I mean, you don't have to,
come on,
but it would be nice if you did.
Erica sits there and she goes, Hannah wants us to go have drinks this weekend with this guy. And I'm thinking it's Auto Show dude.
No.
Right? And she's like, no, it's a different guy. He's a Marine.
A former Marine, yes.
Okay.
But once a Marine, always a Marine.
Built? Tough guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got muscles.
Yeah, I know your type. I figured,
He's got muscles.
This is so your type.
He's got muscles and tattoos.
Muscular, tattooed Marine.
Yeah.
That's what you...
Yeah, America.
America. That's what you want. Yeah, America.
Give me a man.
Every once in a while, I might just get a little crazy.
Get
right?
a little crazy.
Right, but I mean, like, if somebody bumps you in a bar, he could also snap his neck in 3 seconds.
I'm sure he could. I'm absolutely sure he could.
All right, so Hannah's got a lean, mean fighting machine that I'm supposed to meet. Like I thought this was funny because I've heard about every one of these people. I had the mope that came down to the basement.
Mope.
Is the reason why I haven't met the other ones because I was so mean to the mope?
No,
they have to be at a certain level before I'm bringing Chris around because he's just going to make fun of them.
Well, I mean, normally I would not bring someone that I'm seeing around my friends unless like I had a good feeling about this person. The mope was just like we were already hanging out and I was driving him.
Right.
So it's like, let's just stop by my friend Chris and Erica.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah. So you got stuck with the mope for a little while.
All right. And so this must be serious.
So, I mean,
or at least serious enough that you want to have your friends around.
You know what he said? He's told me he thinks he's ready to delete the app.
What, that silly app that like...
Yeah, the Hinge
thing
app.
Like you have this app until you delete it forever?
Yeah.
And he's ready... That was a line? That was his line.
He told me that. I thought it was sweet.
His line was...
I think I'm ready to delete the app.
Hey, baby. I think I'm ready to delete that app.
We're painting. He just bought a new house. I'm helping him paint, and he's got a paint roller in his hands, and I'm painting, and he just looks at me mid painting. He just looks at me, and goes, "I think I'm ready to delete the app." And I just stopped painting. I looked at him. I said, "You are?"
Sitting down here at the 9-foot homemade oak bar with Hannah and myself, we have Emily Hornburg. She is an author who, you went to Evergreen Park High School, didn't you?
I did.
That's amazing. And now you're over in Oak Lawn.
Yeah.
Were you a writer when you were at EPCHS?
I was. And actually, my first book, like the very, very early versions, I started when I was like 14. And writing in my notebooks, instead of doing my homework.
See, teachers think that we're wasting time, and she's just building her future. So
Right, exactly. Okay, so you must have done something before you became a writer, because you were telling me before we sat down and started talking, like, first book comes out in 2020 during the pandemic. And I was like, oh, well, maybe people had a lot of time on their hands. You're like, no. It's very complicated to do anything and get a book going and everything like that during that time. But you started recently. So what did you do before? Like, how did you get yourself to this path where you became an author?
Well, I've wanted to be an author my whole life. Like, I've been writing my whole life. It's kind of always been the goal. It's not full-time yet. I wish it was. That'd be great. But I still have, like, my full-time 9 to 5 that I have to do. And I kind of get all my writing and marketing in, like, before I go to work, after work, on the weekends, on my lunch break. Sometimes while I'm at work, you'll see in my laptop.
Though, I would think it's a good escape when you to write.
It is, yeah.
And you're escaping for sure, as you are writing what looks to be, explain this to me, romantic fantasy. Is that what you would call this?
Yes.
So these are adult books? Are how romantic are these?
They're pretty romantic. They are adult books.
Kids don't read these books.
Don't read the books, kiddos.
Yeah, what I wrote when I was 14 is definitely not what I wrote now.
So these are spicy.
I would call them steamy, because this is the thing I've been learning in my marketing.
Okay.
Is especially with like book talk right now and how they label things, steamy is different from spicy. Like, spicy is like I've read some of the books that are spicy, and they make me be like, oh my goodness, I have to clutch my pearls. Like, oh, what is this? And then like steamy, it's like it's on the page, it's explicit. But it's like you have like 1 or 2 scenes like that.
So I would compare that to, I would think, this is what popped in. This will age me right away. This will date me immediately. You're like Joan Wilder from Romancing the Stone, right? You ever see that movie? Like she's the writer. Michael Douglas is in it. She writes romance novels, and like then all of a sudden she ends up in what is basically a romance novel, and that's what the whole thing is. Like she actually gets to live one and not be a writer.
I think her books are a little steamier.
Steamier,
yeah. Just from what I've like seen from
You've been reading these.
I've been researching her. I was like, I like these kind of books.
Hannah was so excited.
I love the artwork on the books too. I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. The girl with the red hair, like. Yeah, I want her.
Do you get into these kind of books?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see, I've never gotten into that, right? I mean, men, on the other hand, I think are very visual creatures, right? I mean, like, we don't sit down and go, all right, like, I'm in the mood. I'm going to pour myself a Chardonnay and start reading words on a page, and that's going to get me going. Women, like...
It sucks you in.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You're just in a different world, a fantasy land, and you're escaping your everyday, and you're just enjoying the moments.
So you have a new one coming out on the 21st, and this is the second one.
This is the third one.
Third one. Is this a series? Like, people need to go back and read the first one, or are they standalone?
So it is a series, but each book follows a different character and a different couple. But there is an overarching storyline.
Okay.
When the second book came out, I did have a few people say they were able to read the second one without like having to read the first one. They were able to understand the plot line. But it is recommended to read them in order. I feel like that would be the best experience, so you can fully get the whole context.
So do you have the same characters in each book, or is it a new set of characters?
Yes and no. So it is the same. So you'll see characters from like book 1 and book 2 and book 3.
Okay.
But the main character will be different.
Got it. Okay.
As we sit here with Emily, we learn about her series, and later on, Hannah is going to ask some questions, Emily, about how to become an author, how to write your first book. What's the best way to do it? A lot of people have ideas about this, but they don't know how to get started. If you've been injured at work, you need to get started with the law offices of Parente and Norum. You need a team that will do what it takes to fight for your rights. The insurance companies only care about one thing, the bottom line, but the law offices of Parente and Norum has the experience, dedication, proven results it takes to get you the care and compensation you deserve. They have recovered nearly $500 million for their injured clients and loved ones. For a free case evaluation, EP Podcast listeners call or text them today at 312-641-5926 or visit pninjurylaw.com. All right, Emily, take me through this series. Give me an idea of what these books are about without giving the book away. Okay, because this one over here has been researching you. She's like glowing. She's so excited.
I need
She's
something new to read.
I'm going to consume all these books and slide into these characters right here. And like, this is single woman, right? We've talked about this several times. So like you're like, you know what? Every once in a while, rather than have to deal with that stupid app that keeps picking these losers I'm dating.
Dude,
you're like,
they pick some losers.
I'd rather just get a book from Emily here.
Just get the make-believe people. They're better.
So take me through this.
So they're fairy tale retellings.
Okay.
And the first one, The Knight's Chosen, is Snow White. But you do see some interspersing of other fairy tales in there. But basically, our main character, Aira, she is the Snow White character. She is going to be heiress to the kingdom. She's preparing. She's been betrothed to another prince her whole life. And they're preparing for the wedding, but she's not really sure if this is the right thing to do. But then she finds out that her stepmother has poisoned her father, and she's next on the hit list. And she has to go save her father and her kingdom.
And there's romance.
Where does the love come in?
Well, she ends up having to go on a quest with her betrothed's brother.
Oh.
Well, I'm sorry.
I like that.
Who's she? So she's on a quest with her brother?
Her betrothed's brother. So
her
fiance's
brother.
brother.
Oh, I was
So
worried
her
here. I was
fiance's
like,
brother.
hold on a second. I mean,
She's going after the brother.
I was like, I haven't read these books yet. And I was like, wait, her and her brother are getting together? Like, that's how I heard that.
Don't worry.
I was very
this
concerned.
Is not Game of Thrones. Not Game of Thrones.
This is going to be the quickest interview ever. They're going to be like, well, the EP podcast has gone to incest. It's time to get rid of it. People be unsubscribing left and right. Okay, good. I'm glad I misheard that. So now she's out with this guy. And when you draw upon these characters, like, is this, like, Hannah comes in and talks about the weirdos that she dates.
Yes.
Okay. And every once in a while, one or two of them that she likes. Right. And so are you making these characters based off of past experiences? That I would imagine a lot of authors do that. Are you drawing back? Like, does an ex read this book and go, oh man, she's making fun of me or she's using this?
Yes and no. I've actually learned I'm not really great at like having, this character is inspired by that person. But I can kind of take bits and pieces of my own experiences in life and like people I've met where I'm like I work in customer service, so you kind of meet everybody.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of take bits and pieces from like people where you're like, oh, like that was a really interesting quirk. Like I'll kind of tuck that away, or like a lot of it just experiences of like emotions and stuff. You just like, the feeling of what it is to be lonely. So you end up pouring that into your book. Or like, the feeling of wanting to protect your family. So even though the characters may not be from real people, a lot of like emotion and your own life experiences do seep in just because like you can't help it. It's part of who you are. And so it's just going to pour into whatever it is that you're working on.
Do they all have a happily ever after? Or is it a cliffhanger type thing?
They do have, this series so far has all had happily ever after.
And I give away the ending of all the books for crying out loud.
But that's romance though, because that's the thing. Like
people expect that.
Yeah. So, and actually, technically, if you don't have a happily ever after or happily ever after for now, it is not a romance book. And that's why you'll never find like Nicholas Sparks. Will never be found in a romance bookstore.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't have happily ever afters.
Yep.
That's like a requirement, huh?
It is.
Well, to me, it'd be like sitting there and telling me this book will end up okay. And then you're reading it, and it's like, it takes the mystery out of it, I think, a little bit for me, But then again, the last series of books that I really sat down and got into was Game of Thrones, and he just kills people left and right. Nothing ends up well. And then he doesn't even finish the thing. Yeah. Did you ever get into that, or do you get what kind of books do you get into?
I've read a bunch of stuff. Like I have read Game of Thrones.
How does that guy not finish that book?
I know, it's very frustrating.
You're an author.
It's
like,
very
can you even explain that to me? You would think that he would keep going, especially if he didn't like the way that HBO ended it, and he just stopped.
I know. I don't get it either. Maybe I think my only theory is like maybe he's just like, oh, I have lots of money now.
I know, exactly.
I'm good.
I'm good.
And it's like, because at a certain point, you just so kind of like I could just see like some authors just being like, well, like I'm not scraping to like get that book deal anymore. Like I can write whatever I want and 1 million people are gonna buy it. So I'm just gonna write whatever I want. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And if it takes me like 30 years, well, people are still gonna buy it because I wrote Game of Thrones.
And there's probably some burnout too. Like by the time he got popular, it's like I didn't even want to write anymore, but I just kind of got stuck doing it now after all these years. And he's like done doing it.
Yeah,
you're early on into it, so I mean, like it's got to be kind of exciting to do. What's the best part about being an author? Is it like going and doing these? Do you go and you read your own book? Have you done one of those things yet?
I haven't live. Like I've done a couple like YouTube or Facebook Live type of things where I've done some readings. I do really like getting to know the readers and other authors. Like what's been really cool with like my publishing house is they've really worked at creating a sense of community. And so it's kind of nice where it's like we're writing. Maybe once was kind of like, well, I'm sitting here alone with my laptop. And now I'm like, oh, I have like all of these other like writer friends now. Yeah. And we're all kind of in the same boat and we can like help each other and talk to each other. So it's been really cool to be able to get to know readers and other writers at the same time. And just connecting with more people who love books.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. It is now time for your EP podcast Word on the Street, brought to you by Cool Clouds Vapor Shop. Quitting smoking is hard, and Cool Clouds wants to give you an alternative. They have a full taster bar, great CBD products, and a brand new location, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie, right next to the very soon-to-be-opened Spoke and Vine. Check out all they have to offer at coolcloudsvapor.com or stop in and see them at 3148 West 95th Street. The Village is hiring a full-time executive assistant to the police chief. There's a list of duties here, but if you think you're qualified or you want to see what the qualifications are, evergreenpark-ill.com. Youth Spring Soccer registration is open. Recreation League is having this for ages 4 to 14 with the season beginning on April 22nd. It goes until June the 10th, and the fee is $85 for residents and $95 for non-residents. Go back to the website I just mentioned and go to the rec department section to sign up online. The March for Meg 5K Walk and Skin Screening Event coming to Evergreen Park at the EP Firehouse, 8900 South Kedzie Avenue on Saturday, March 25th from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. The free skin screening begins at 10 a.m. and the 5K Fun Walk kicks off at 11. Get more info at marchformeg.com. And the Office of Citizen Services is planning an overnight trip to Springfield, Illinois, Wednesday the 21st of June through Thursday the 22nd. 2 days, 1 night. You're going to visit the Illinois Route 66 Hall of Fame and Museum in Pontiac. You're going to tour Abraham Lincoln's Presidential Museum. You're going to tour the Illinois State Capitol building and much more. Get all the details from OCS at 708-422-8776. Now, Hannah mentioned to me when our guest was sitting down here that she wanted to learn more about how to write a book. I think everybody's had an idea at some point in their life about, I'm going to write a book. They've even had like some kind of thought of what the book would be about. But getting started and going through the process seems complicated, and generally people don't do it. So why don't we learn about it? And that's brought to you by sidsauce.net. Local Evergreen Park company creates hot sauces with peppers they grow right here in the EP, bottles them, and then brings these hot sauces right to your door with free delivery. See everything they have to offer at sidsauce.net.
Now, who are your favorite authors? Like, who do you sit down to read?
So I will say I am a big Sarah J. Maas fan. I love Erin Morgenstern. The Night Circus is my favorite book of all time. I'm really into an author, Rebecca Ross, right now. She originally started as young adult, and I really loved her young adult debut. But I'm right now reading her adult debut series.
She gets a little steamier.
Just a tiny bit.
Tiny.
It's a tiny bit. Like, hers are actually fairly
just
clean.
Steamy. Right.
But
Okay.
like, it's this like Scottish inspired fantasy, and it's like very cool, and like all these like different spirits, and you can summon the spirits by playing the harp and stuff, and it's just like it's very cool.
Now, how long does it take you to write a book? I've always wondered that. Like, you get an idea in your head. Okay, it's going to be the Snow White version, and she's going to fall in love. I'm assuming she falls in love with what's supposed to be her brother-in-law. Like, once you sit down, how long does it take you to go from like start to finish?
So my first book that was published, that one probably took me maybe like a year and a half to write it.
Okay.
Just because as I was, just getting started, and I had the luxury of taking my time because I didn't have anybody saying, you have to have this in by this time. And so I could kind of play with it a little bit, because when you first submit to literary agents and editors and publishers, you have to have a complete book.
Okay.
Like nonfiction, I believe you can like pitch an idea and maybe a few chapters, but for fiction, your first book, they want it to be complete. And then they'll help you clean it up and make it better. And so I had that, but now I probably say like 6 months to a year, kind of depending. Like right now, it'll be a little bit more under the wire. I've been procrastinating a little bit. Writers are great procrastinators.
Now, yes, we are. You wait. There's deadlines. You wait to the last minute.
Exactly.
Now, why did you decide to go with a publisher instead of going self-published?
Well, some of it is just I like having in a way, it's like having like that confidence of someone behind you. Because then even it's like if you have those doubts of like, oh man, like my book really stinks. Like I'm not good at this. I'm not terrible at this. I have like my editor and my publisher. There's been times I've like emailed them or texted them, and I'm like, I'm terrible. I'm failing you guys. I'm the worst. And they're like, no, you're not. And they're like, like you're fine. Just keep going.
Okay.
And so it's kind of nice to have that. But it's also, like I don't have to pay for my book cover. I don't have to pay for my editor. I don't have to pay for my copy edits. They take care of the formatting for me. And so in a way, like that's kind of nice. Like self-publishing, you got to do all that on your own. Either you have to do it yourself or you have to pay someone to do it. So that's a really big perk of having a publisher as well.
Did you have to go through several publishers to find one that would like pick you up? I know I've heard it from a lot of authors that they get a lot of rejections from publishers, and that would drive me nuts. I would be so nervous.
Yeah, so I had one book that was more of an urban fantasy that I pitched and queried out to literary agents for a long time, and it went nowhere. I got like tons and tons of rejections on that one. And so then like with this one, I kind of was like tentatively hopeful, and I kind of pitched it out to a few people. And then thankfully as part of there used to be this contest online where you could have like other authors mentor you. And I didn't win the contest. I wasn't chosen for the contest, but one of the authors still kind of took me under her wing, and she actually ended up pitching my book to my publisher.
Oh, wow.
When she met them at a conference one day, and she was like, I know this other girl, and I think this book you would really like. And so they were like, yeah, have her email it to us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really cool.
It's like it's like some of my favorite authors, like Anne Rice is one of my favorites. And I want to say Interview with a Vampire was rejected, I want to say 70-something times.
Yeah.
Before she finally got her break. And it's like, there's any group of people that know perseverance, it's authors and it's writers. How to take that no and say, you're wrong, I'm right, and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, and then if somebody really aggravates you who doesn't like your book, you make them a character, and then you kill the character like on page 72.
Exactly.
In a gruesome, horrible way is what you do. So Emily Hornburg, she's got The Cursed Queens. That's the name of the series. If you're looking for her title as an author, she actually goes by E.E. Hornburg. The names of the books that are already out, The Knight's Chosen and The Shadow's Heir, and then the new one is The Forest Keeper.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one is coming out on the 21st?
Yes, it is.
And where can they get it? Everywhere? Amazon? Like the local stores? Like where are they looking?
So, so far, not a lot of local stores are carrying it. I believe Love Sweet Arrow in Tinley Park. They might have some. I'll give them a copy when I have my author copies, and I believe they have carried The Knights Chosen in the past. But online, you can get anywhere. You can get it at Amazon. You could go to barnesandnoble.com and get it there. Kobo, bookshop.org. Kind of wherever your favorite online retailer is, you can get it there. And then I know, like, you can always request at your local library. I believe the Oak Lawn Library has been carrying my books. But I know a lot of local libraries, like if you walk in and you say, will you carry this book? Like, they'll probably order it for you. And same thing with bookstores. If you walk in and you ask them, hey, can you carry this book? If they know people are interested, they'll go buy it.
Yeah, I'll talk to Frank Murray over at the Evergreen Park Library. I got a guy. He comes on the show once a month. We'll get him taken care of. Before I let you go, though, and I appreciate you stopping by, ever a moment when you're writing these steamy books where you finish a scene and you go, oh, no, that's spicy. I have to stop. And you go back? Does it ever get out of control for you?
It doesn't. Actually, my editor has to tell me I have to kick it up a few notches. Like, she'll like be reading it and she's like, no, you have to put in more, Emily.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.